Hello students, a very good morning and I hope you are all doing well. In the previous lecture, I have given introduction to Plato and his theory of forms and also his theory of literature or art especially, and wherein we have seen that his idea of poetry and poets is not in favor of retaining them in his state, that is republic, where he finds that poetry is thrice removed from reality because it is being taken from the world surrounding us. And according to Plato, the world surrounding us is not perfect, and it is based upon the pure, world of forms or ideas. So the world itself is not perfect. According to Plato, and because the art or literature or poetry is coming from this world, he thinks that poetry is also not perfect, and he also feels that poetry, of course, instigates the negative emotions of people, so they should not be allowed to live in republic. So the poets should be banned. Of course, though Plato recognizes the greatness of poetry as an art, uh, for utilitarian purposes, he feels that it is not good that we could encourage the poets or poetry in the society, because he thinks that the poet is writing poetry with some kind of inspiration, which Plato terms as if it is madness. Maybe he is through divine inspiration or whatever we call it, he is having a certain faculty that is working more than the common people, and this talent or this creativity is also observed as what you call dangerous in the society, because he may lead the people or the citizens in a negative manner. And now let us see Aristotle, because Aristotle's Poetics is prescribed for your study. In all the three classes of introduction, I have given you the introduction to literary criticism and the history of literary criticism, especially in the ancient world, and how the different ancient critics or philosophers, who are philosophers first, and then they expressed their views on literature or poetry. Especially we have seen from Greek, Roman cultures as such. So now let us go to see Aristotle. Let us know briefly about Aristotle. Of course, to know more about Aristotle is not part of our syllabus, and it takes, of course, most of our time also, because his works are so vast, and he has written many books, and he has been into many areas of knowledge, and we all know that he is also considered as the father of some branches of knowledges, along with his master, Plato. So now let me share the screen. In this class, I just want to familiarize you with Aristotle, who is Aristotle, and what are his works, and what are his ideas, etc. Briefly, very briefly, I would like to give introduction to Aristotle. So let me share the screen now. Yeah, now students, I hope you are able to see my screen. Now this is about the birth of Aristotle and his education, especially. Aristotle is also called as the Stagirian. This name is from the place where he was born, that is Stagira, a city in Macedonia of Greece, and he is born in 384 BC. And at the age of 17, he went to Athens to join in Plato's academy. Academy is like our modern university, as you are studying in a university. Like in the similar manner, Aristotle also has been to academy and joined with Plato to pursue his studies. Of course, he was the most intelligent disciples of Plato, and he remained in academy for 20 years, studying various branches of knowledge and also teaching and writing. In those days, also in Athens, because Aristotle is from Stagira and Macedonia, and Aristotle hails from a kind of royal family, attachments with royal families, which are, Macedonia, as you all know, is very popular for what you say, imperialistic, in the sense extending their empires, occupying the other states, etc. In Athens, Aristotle was viewed with some kind of a biased nature, wherein though he was the intelligent student, he was never considered as Plato's own inheritance, and thus he was not, after Plato's death, he was not given the headship of the academy. So Aristotle, of course, has to move out of Athens. Where he went and how rest of his life went on, we'll see in the next slides. To say a few lines about his intellectuality or his works or the branches in which he studied, he contributed his knowledge, etc. Here in the second slide, you can just read where Aristotle's intellectuality covers most of the sciences and arts. Of course, Aristotle is a philosopher, and philosophy is considered as the branch of, origin of many branches of knowledge. And so, though we know Aristotle maybe as a philosopher, but you'll be surprised here to see that in what areas he contributed his knowledge, or he has given his knowledge. So see there in the slide as it is visible to you. So he made his intellectual contributions in areas of zoology, biology, botany, chemistry, of course, poetics, political theory, and psychology. So many sciences and arts, of course, were very much explored by Aristotle, and he has given fundamental theories in almost all of these branches and other branches also, metaphysics, etc. And most the next thing is that he is known very well as the founder of the formal logic, and he devised a logical system which is recognized as the final for centuries together. So Aristotle is more into logic also, and then he actually considered as the founder of formal logic. Logic is studied as a subject, and he devised a system, and that system was recognized as the final for centuries together. To say that no one after Aristotle could alter the theories of logic that Aristotle had propounded. Of course, we cannot, for want of time, we cannot go into all those areas of, in which Aristotle has contributed. So let us limit ourselves to know few or briefly some fundamental points to know the scholarship of Aristotle only. I am referring to all these things. So like his logic, his studies in zoology also remained until the 19th century. So see, way back in the 4th century, the third 340s, or 384 that he was born, the 4th century BC. And where is this, 19th century? See, imagine how many centuries have passed. But his studies remained unsurpassed after many centuries. Of course, when we are going to read poetics also, you will be understanding that most of the literary terms, or whatever we consider as fundamental terms that are needed for the student of literature to read plays, dramas or novels or whatever it is, they are provided by Aristotle. So, like in the field of poetry or literary criticism, how we consider Aristotle as the father of many what you say terms, literary terms or concepts that have been that were contributed by him, and they were, they have been under usage for many centuries, even now also. That reveals the greatness of Aristotle, and this is same in many branches of knowledge where he has contributed so many issues that they remained fundamental for many centuries to come, and they remained. So, in order to say that greatness only, I am referring to his studies in geology, remained, of course, unsurpassed until the 19th century. And above all this, as I told you that into what areas that Aristotle has been, or his research has been, or his studies has been, and so many, and his contributions, unsurpassing, remarkable contributions that were made by Aristotle till now. Above all, we have to mention one more thing, that he was the most outstanding philosopher. So, in philosopher, as a philosopher, Aristotle has much to contribute, and as a philosopher, he is great. And his contributions, of course, like in other areas of knowledge, were also surpassing. And besides this, his writings in ethics, political theory, metaphysics, and the philosophy of science continue to be studied even now. And his work remains a powerful current even in the contemporary philosophical debate. Now, when he says I have mentioned his writings in ethics, and here you have one of his book where Nicomachean Ethics, Nicomachean Ethics is a very great contribution by Aristotle, wherein he discusses what is good, what is bad, and what is the character, or how we acquire character, etc. All those things. So, and to certain extent, the understanding of ethics is Nicomachean Ethics, or Aristotle's ethics, or his idea of ethics is important to understand poetics also. And of course, some of his political theories or metaphysical theories also intervene into what you call understanding of poetics. So, when we come to the analysis of poetics, we will just try to point out what is his idea of ethics or politics or metaphysics, and then how we can relate them into poetics. That we will do when we come to the topic, that is poetics exactly. Now, let us see, because Aristotle is such a great personality, contributing in so much of areas. We call this as epistemology, the knowledge, the branches that Aristotle has contributed his knowledge are many and many, and we have seen. So it is natural that his preachings or teachings and were followed by many to the century after century. So of course we can say that he has influenced many generations of philosophers or scientists or literary scholars or historians or metaphysical metaphysics, etc. So the legacy of Aristotle, of course, we can be summed up in like this here, as I could read this in from different sources like Encyclopedia of Britannica. And students, if you are interested, you can also refer to these sources, online sources like Encyclopedia of Britannica and philosopher.org, etc. and or so many textbooks that if you open the Google Books also, some of the books will be some of the pages in some books will be open, and where you can read about the greatness of Aristotle and his legacy. So this ancient Greek philosopher and scientist, who is considered as one of the greatest intellectual figures of Western history, in the whole of Western history. Of course, Aristotle is considered to be a great personality and intellectual. He was the harbinger of many philosophical and scientific systems that became the framework and vehicle for both Christian scholasticism and medieval Islamic philosophy also. So, based upon his philosophical theories or ethical theories or metaphysical theories, so much of the scholarship in Christianity as well as Islam were also propounded. And we can see that in the modern period, the revolutions of Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Enlightenment, even into these periods also, his concepts remained embedded in Western thinking. We cannot find any Western, thought which is not found or based upon Aristotle's theories. That was the greatness of Aristotle. And because in other subjects we are not going into deep, when we come to poetics and deal with the concepts that were dealt in poetics, of course, you will understand the legacy of Aristotle, especially in our area, that is literary criticism, etc. So, with this brief introduction, I hope you could grasp the greatness or uniqueness of the philosopher Aristotle and his great contributions at the very beginnings of the civilization. When the knowledge started expounding, etc., we can see how wonderfully he has contributed in many of the areas of study. So now let us see that his life, Aristotle's life is usually studied by scholars and literary critics in three parts, as you could see that on the slide. The first part, that is 67 to 47, and then second part, that is 347 to 335, and the third part, that is 335 to till his death. Though, see, the first part I have already referred to, wherein we have seen Aristotle coming to Athens and then joining Plato's Academy. That is, he was aged between 17 and 35, and his first active part of life was spent in Plato's Academy at Athens. And there, as I told you earlier, also he was a student, teacher, and writer during this time. But the unfortunate thing is that most of his writings written during this, or most of his works written during this period, are lost. And we can, of course, conclude that his thinking or his thought process or his ideas on different subjects were mostly shaped by the teachings of his master, that is Plato. And they have, of course, they differed in some areas, but there are many areas in which, of course, the master and disciple agreed, and they have worked together and they taught together. And so we can see that though his writings during this period of, academy were much influenced by his master, it is very clear with the poetics itself that he differed with his master in some fundamental issues. Now, besides the differences, let us also see what are the ideas or theories or concepts that these master and disciple have commonly shared the grounds. Like their thought about all subjects was directed towards practical ends. Of course, I told you during my lecture of Plato, that Plato is more having utilitarian purposes. All the arts, according to Plato, should have a utilitarian purpose which should contribute to the well-being of the state and its citizens. So in the similar manner, of course, Aristotle also thought the same thing, and they all have directed all their thoughts in all subjects towards practical ends only, and their speculation was never far removed from the business of teaching. Most of the times their aim was to teach and to to mold good citizens or good scholars. They believed that unless they are educated properly, they cannot be good citizens. And academy, especially the institution of Plato, always aimed to teach for achieving good life. Nowadays we know how corruption is very rampant in the society. We always talk of corruption and how the society is going backward in say backward in the sense in the areas of ethical values, moral values, etc. And then of course we are developing in what way? That is science and technology. No, we are developing technologically, we are developing scientifically, and so many things are happening in and around us. And if you take computer science, for example, for every fraction of a second a new invention is there, and we have been witnessing the rapid development of technology in all these years. But in spite of all this, if you consider, are we leading a good life, or the citizens in a state or in a country or in the whole world, we can see that people are lacking in morality, people are lacking in ethics. And now in the present lockdown, why the need of this recorded classes or online classes has arrived. Very well that we have been locked down for corona or COVID-19, and this is only because of human greed. Many scientists say that the industrialized livestock or unethical businesses and unethical industrial policies, etc., have been playing havoc with the world or the earth and the human life. And that is why we are exploiting nature like anything. And this good life, the concept of good life is not there in our teachings. But academy always aimed to teach for achieving good life. And Plato considered that poetry should also do that by being moralistic and ethical. Of course, Aristotle also agreed on the same thing. But to the end, Plato felt that poetry cannot be moralistic, because poetry is very highly allegorical, and poetry of course nurtures all kinds of emotions. We cannot discriminate between the negative or positive emotions in poetry. While reading poetry, you may come across both negative and positive, etc. And Plato felt that this negative emotions, nurturing of the negative emotions, is more dangerous. And also he felt that we should not teach poetry to children, because they cannot understand the allegorical nature of poetry. So master and disciple, they agreed that of course poetry is an art form, and they have also agreed that it is a form of imitation. And they have also agreed that academy should aim to teach ethical values or moral values, and to the citizens, to make the people good citizens, and to make the rulers also good, efficient rulers, etc. In spite of all these common grounds that they shared, Aristotle has differed, especially in his concept of poetry, and how he differed, etc., we will see in the Poetics. Now, the second part of Aristotle death, of course, begins with Plato's death. After Plato's death, someone else became the successor of Plato instead of Aristotle, only because of the biased attitudes that Athenians have exhibited. And so from 347, and he left Athens. And as I told you, that the second part is from 347 to 335. And sorry, just a minute. So yes, in 347 to 335, we can see that he left Athens, and then later, after the death of Plato, he left Athens and he has been into different places. And finally, in 338 BC, he was invited by Philip, the the father of Philip of Macedon, who is the father of Alexander. You all know who is Alexander, the great conqueror of this world at that time. So, and then in this second part, scholars believe that he started, giving education to Alexander. Of course, after much contemplation of how to start the education, because Alexander is going to be the ruler, and he's the son of the king, he's the prince, he should become a good ruler. So he started, of course, with Homer's poetry only. And of course, this is contradicting his master's views on education. And then scholars believe that most of his works, like dialogue on philosophy, dialogue on rhetoric, dialogue on the poets, all these were written during this time. Of course, they are considered as great and influential works also. And by this time, actually, Aristotle was very famous, in the whole world, and all over the Greek also. He was very popular as the disciple of Plato, and also now as the tutor of Alexander. So here, Alexander's, literary training, of course, yeah, Aristotle did not felt that he should dry up his emotions by ignoring the poets, and and he never aimed to be, produce a philosopher, king as such. So he started his education actually with the poetry only. And now, after giving training to Aristotle in say in the third part of his life, which is again going back to his what you call his work, that is so let me make a correction, that is though he it is the third part is from 330 the 335, as I have given you the years wrongly. Please ignore those years. And now the third part is in the second part of his life, the important thing was his training, what do you call, Alexander. And then in the third part, he returned to Athens, and then he established Lyceum. Lyceum is like academy is the university, as I told you, as academy is like university. Lyceum is also the university where um, most of his works that are available for today belong to this period only. So after establishing Lyceum, of course, Aristotle started teaching, and then of course he continued his writings also, and most of his books that are available in fragments even now are written during this period only. So I have the list of works here, as you could see: logic, physics, metaphysics, rhetoric, Nicomachean ethics, politics, and poetics. Of course, what are his views in Nicomachean ethics? That is his ethical views, and as I told you earlier, also regarding his logic, the foundation for logic, etc., and his ideas on metaphysics, etc. I so here the poetics is important for us, and um, all his works, of course, reflect the curriculum that he followed in Lyceum, and also, okay, this is the brief introduction to Aristotle, his greatness, his life, and his works, and his being the tutor, his being the disciple of Plato, and his shaping of his ideas or theories, etc., in academy, and then establishing his own school of thought, that is Lyceum. So, with this brief introduction, in the next lecture, I will start with poetics. Which is the text that is prescribed for your study. Poetics, of course, as the text, if you want, is available online. You can download the text, and if you can go through some of the pages, you can go through. But there is a much difficulty in understanding poetics. We'll discuss this. We will begin our discussion of poetics in the next lecture. To this lecture, let me close the my presentation. I'm stopping my sharing the screen. Now you can see. So this is my fourth lecture, and I hope you have gone through all the three lectures, and I wish you will go through this also. If you are not able to understand any of the points, or any of the sentences or phrases that I've been presenting on my presentation, please feel free to communicate with me through our department mail ID, as well as through our WhatsApp group also. But WhatsApp, of course, you may not be able to present properly. So I advise you all to use the department mail to communicate with any of us, all our teachers. They have the password, and the mail can be accessed by any of the teachers. If you have any doubts regarding any lecture, as the head of the department, I actually I am telling you to interact and to clarify your doubts through mail to whoever the faculty is. You can just give a mail and ask for the clarifications. And if you have something to be explained in detail, we may add that in the next recorded lecture. and you can just hear that in the next lecture that we can record and present to you. If you come up with doubts, of course we can explain further, and then you can I hope you can follow the topic in a very good manner. If you are not able to ask any questions, means we have to think whether you have understood everything or you did not understand anything at all. So let us not be like that. Try to interact, because this is not the physical classroom. Yet there is nothing that you should discouraged. You can get discouraged, but you can very well be active through mails also. And also you can ask for some reference texts, and in your syllabus all the reference texts were also given, and much of the material is available on the net also. If you have access for net, you can download some articles, read them, and if you have any doubts, please keep asking us or interacting with us. And before closing this lecture, I just want to say that I told you to write an assignment on literary criticism, all of you, whatever you understood with the first lecture, the introduction to literary criticism, and also the history of ancient literary criticism. I told you to give an assignment, but none of you have given the assignment. None of you have mailed the assignment. So today I will share information on WhatsApp. So all of you, please write a few pages, like 3 or 4 pages of assignment, and then just scan the copies and mail them to the department mail ID. And if any other teacher has given you assignments also, please mail them to the department mail ID. I hope you got a brief idea regarding the greatness or intellectuality of Aristotle. So with these few words, I take leave. Have a nice time.